Welcome to the PARAcast, everybody. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez, joining you with 3 handguns on my computer table and an itch to talk about screwing. Joining me tonight, he's urging you, please don't listen to the Ghislaine Maxwell trial because he doesn't want you to hear the name, Steve Koski.
Oh, God. Can you imagine being brought up in that trial? That would not be good press.
No, my middle name
was on the plane.
My middle name starts with an A. It starts with an A. It's like you don't want to be the other rich guy named the same name. So
on the Lolita Express.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the celebrity actors are like sweating, just waiting for their name to be read out.
Well, did you hear the pilot testimony? The pilot's like, I never saw any bad activity. Did he sell you like 50 acres in New Mexico? Did he give you 50 acres in New Mexico? No. I paid for it. How much did you pay for it? $5.
That was like those two car owner brothers in the Rittenhouse case. I'm like, these guys are just clearly lying. Like, we have no idea.
We're not part of anything. We're not on anyone's team. For the love of God, we have 3 car lots. Don't burn number 2 or 3. And also, just go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, it was just so funny because when I watched them on the stand, and it sounds bad, but when I watched them, I'm like, are these people like retarded or are they lying? It was just like, who puts these people on the stand? They're just horrible.
It's a fun game. If you could actually make a board game called Perjury, where you can't lie, and if you've proven that you lied, then you have some but that should be like, it's like, tell the truth. Well, don't tell the truth for as long as possible, and that's what you get in those criminal cases. Well, how much was the destruction? I believe at the time we thought it was $1 million. No, how much did you find out it was? Well, at that time, how much did the insurance pay you out? $256,000. Okay, thank you. We finally got there. Anyway, also joining me tonight, his Mickey Mouse ears now cover his male pattern baldness. It's Robert Wyatt.
Thank God for small miracles.
And speaking about small miracles, let's talk about my adventures in screwing. So anyways, here's a Beretta 92X RDO, okay, right? And so it comes with a plate, and I bought the
RDO?
Yeah.
This is the ready door optics?
Ready for donors' organs. Ready for donor organs. So it's got the 2 slots up there. And so it comes with this plate, and I couldn't get an RMR mounted. Well, I didn't want to put my RMR on it. I was going to put my Holosun. The screws are too long. They go through the plate, and they touch the slide.
And you ordered 25 of them.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like,
screws.
I'm trying to figure out how you are supposed to... I'm trying to figure out what the thread pitch is on these female end holes so I can get the right amount of things. So I'm like, okay, well, I got the screws. I will order a screw gauge. So that's
what that was.
This is a $9.
You weren't using it that way earlier.
It's my eyes wide shut mask.
You're measuring something else.
Yeah, well, that way you can tell if your partner's legit. Anyways,
it's not wide, but it's thick. It's not long, but it's thick. Sorry, I said that wrong.
But
it's okay. I got what you're putting down.
So it has a metric and a standard gauge, and what happens is you drop the screw in there, and then the threads will exactly be the right diameter to hold in there, and so you get that, and then you can plop it up on the top and actually measure the length of the screw. And then on the back, it has these raised portions, which are the thread pitch. So how many threads per inch this screw is supposed to be. And so I took out their screws, I measured them, and I couldn't figure out exactly where it was, but I was like, okay, it's got to be like this 40, because it kind of looks like the 40 when I put it up to it. And then I ordered 20 size 6 by 40 screws. Got them in, made sure the head spacing was all correct, and then go to screw them in the plate. And it's not, because Beretta doesn't use a 32 like everyone else, or a 40 like Delta Point. Delta Point uses a 640 screw. They use a 648 ultra fine machine screw, and I can't find any of those. So I said,
McMaster-Carr?
McMaster-Carr does not make one.
Oh, jeez.
You're going to have to buy a lathe, and mill your own?
Well, I decided to do something almost as costly. So after buying sets of screws for the Masada, which I sold, I got those screws. I got these screws, and so I just decided, I was like, F it, I'm just gonna buy a damn optic that Beretta makes the plate for, that exact optic, so I can get the screws from them, and it's gonna be fine. So I go and I'm looking at, and I got the Seymour RTS in my cart. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this. And then I pull up the windows, and I'm reading everybody's problem with it. And everyone's like, it's all right. The customer service great. And then I'm like reading the warranty. 1 year warranty does not include glass. And I'm like, I am not going to buy an optic that rides on a slide for a 1 year warranty and does not cover the damn glass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it.
This is where we need Kenny here to like mock him for this, and he'll be like, "What? It's never broke on me," which is the same kind of response as like the guys who buy the Anderson lowers. What? It works for me.
So here's a Vortex Venom. It's a $220 optic. Guess what? If you break it, they're going to replace it. Here's a Trijicon RMR. They break it, they're going to replace it. The Holosun, they break it, they're going to fix it up, they're going to replace it. I think they have like a 5-year on theirs. So anyway, so I was like, all right, fine. Damn it, fine. I'll buy the freaking Delta Point. And then I put one in the cart and like, $450. God, it was like a cross to a vampire.
Wait.
I was like,
seriously, are they $450 right now?
They're $450 in most spots, $400 in other spots, so it all depends on what you're doing. But a lot of guys,
$450, I'd just buy an SRO.
Basically, people are doing it at $450, and then they have
There's
coupon
a
code that
you
gets
probably
done.
have for less than $450.
Well, good news is that Tom's got friends in low places. So one Nate Osborne happened to buy a pistol that came with a Delta Point, and he has no interest in the Delta Point, so he sold me a Delta Point Pro 2.5 MOA dot for $300.
Oh, now that's a friend.
That's a friend.
That's not bad.
No, that is, and so I ordered the RDO plate for the Beretta, and so I will have a Trijicon plate and extra Trijicon screws till the end of time, just in case. Just in case.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, we're on that part, and so my Wilson Combat parts came in today. I got
the
my
downside is that the 2.5 tends to break more, but if you send it, if it breaks,
lifetime
you
warranty.
send it, that's what I'm saying. If you send it back, odds are pretty good they will probably upgrade the, I don't know, you call it like the components
The
or
circuit
whatever.
Send you
board.
the new model guts,
Yeah, they will.
or maybe just a whole new model unit. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, so
that'd be really nice.
if it goes out, Loophole has a great warranty.
They're great about fixing it.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. I mean, I've sent now 3 of them, and they fixed them all.
So I got my Wilson Comet trigger bar in this thing. It feels pretty good. I got the extra mass hammer. Feels pretty good. I got the flat wire recoil spring. So that should be all good. And then I got this for $17 because it was on sale. And that is a Wilson Combat pistol bag. So it's pretty nice. So it's got these 2 bigger pouches in the back for like 100 rounds of ammo or whatever you want, spare parts.
I like how it's got like 27 mag pouches for all the single stack mags you'll need.
Yep, it's got seven mag pouches in there for the front, so
That's not shabby.
Nice and padded. $17 later, super excited. So that's what I did. So
yeah,
if you would like to know,
I think the Mormons just knocked on my door.
Lucky.
What's that?
Oh, Robin didn't answer it. She has the
girl.
pistol out though.
What she needs is a steel plate and a suppressor, so she can just fire a couple shots at the ground in a safe direction just to scare people off. Bap, bap, bap. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So Nate's gonna ship the Delta Point over, and then hopefully by Friday or Saturday I'll have a Delta Point on the gun. So
Awesome.
Yep, super excited. And all it took me was eventually a bunch of more money instead of trying to hunt down screws for the rest of my life.
Wow, I mean, it's almost like somebody told you to do this in the first place.
I was going to do this in the first place. I was just going to shoot the Holosun on it for a little bit. But F that idea.
Look, this is not my I told you so face. It's not. It's not. Like,
It just looks like it.
It just looks
looks exactly like my I told you so face. But
Speaking of Delta Point Pros, I yanked mine off my 34, and I bought this adapter plate from Mad Max Precision or something. It's the only one that came up. Well, it's the only one I cared to spend enough time to look for a Google search.
Is it a plastic or metal one?
Well, I hope it's metal because I torqued it to like 18 foot-pounds. or inch pounds. Anyway, and I put the Delta Point Pro on the Ruger Mark III.
And you put the Racker Jacker on.
And it's got the Racker Jacker, and it's got the, oh my gosh, this thing, the extended slide release. You can take part of the extension off, but I'm telling you, I cannot shoot this gun and get the slide to lock open because it's like sticks out half an inch. I don't know if you can see it. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, that thing's really out there.
That's made for a thumbs down grip, for sure.
Yeah. So like question, do you actually need that for that gun? Because you're shooting Steel Challenge and stuff like that, so you're not really cooking through that whole mag, right?
This part without the extension on it works pretty good, probably for me. Maybe Robin will want the big nub on it, but
yeah,
it is really nice. Now it works like a normal gun where you can just because the Mark III's, the Ruger Mark series is pretty tough to thumb down that lever and get the slide to release and strip off around. So
I mean, only if you want your 10-year-old's thumbnail to come off, they're perfectly fine. But
yeah. And now it locks open like any normal pistol. You don't have to. I mean, it's got quite a few little upgrades to it. Because normally with the Mark III, if you have an empty mag in and you pull the slide back, it won't stay back unless you push up on that.
Yeah, you manually thumb.
But up. So whatever, I can't remember who sold me this parts kit, but they it works like a normal gun now. So I went up and sighted it in, and it's all.
That's got the
rock and roll
Volquartsen trigger kit.
No, it had whatever trigger kit came with. It came with so it's also got I bought the parts kit that includes the.
It's not Volquartsen. It's T&M Cross or something like that. I think they make one.
Something like that, but it disables the mag safety. And at the same time, kind of it makes the trigger a little better. But yeah. But anyway,
that's awesome.
I got to sight that in today. I got to fire mags through this and get it right on the button. So that was fun.
I'm happy that you and Robin are going out and you're sharing the wonderful joy of shooting steel targets with Robin. But the Delta Point Pro, I don't remember you ordering a second Delta Point Pro. Did you?
No, I yanked it off the 34. And I had actually one of the most frustrating matches I've ever had. I went out and I shot the UDPL, their November steel match after Thanksgiving. And there was none of you jerks came out and shot it. So
I was in California, so you come in. Well, that and I'm also persona non grata, so.
Yes. So I shot it not seriously. I shot half the stages, strong hand and weak hand. And even when I was shooting freestyle, like I was looking at my videos and like my stance is lousy. Like I'm not shooting aggressively. Like I think you guys actually have to be there for me to shoot well. Like I just shoot like a jerk if there's no pressure.
That's weird.
So
and it was
basically what you're saying is the level of talent that shows up to the farm is so suboptimal that you just like phone it in.
I phoned it in so badly.
Oh, wow.
So I had one of these realizations where I'm like, I can shoot all these targets, and I'm like, miss, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got to pay attention to the sights and the trigger, and then it's like hit. Yeah, so it was pretty fun.
Steve falls to the lowest common denominator. If he was like born in South Detroit, he'd be like wearing a bandana, slinging dope, just in a gang.
I mean, I'm telling you, that's exactly the type of day it was.
Oh man.
So did you shoot irons or your dot? You shot irons.
I shot irons.
So you officially pieced out of optics.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Robin shoot this 22 for a while, and I really enjoy the challenge. I just don't find the dot much of a. It's a different challenge. It's too challenging.
It's a competition challenge, not a shooting challenge. That's the way I would put it. It's like it's nice because there's a lot of guys to compete against. The shooting, the reloading, and the stage planning is not there. It's not It's not the pressure that you're used to.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about that. I could understand that.
Thanks,
I mean, if this was a few years ago, honestly, it's hard, man. It's like production is in Utah. Production's turned into like Revolver.
Yeah, it's getting close.
In some cases, there's more revolver shooters than production right now.
Oh, come on.
There's been a couple times where
really?
you've had
Andy Anderson
Roger and
Roger Mousley.
those guys came out, and there were more people in revolver, and you're just like, oh, how
that's
the
not
turns have tabled.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if they're going to mock us as bad as we mock them.
It kind of feels that way. It's just, it sucks because production used to just be this. Production was the be all end all.
It's the most fun. You got your iron sights. I ain't got ammunition to shoot everything. I'm a man. I gotta reload this gun. I gotta be quick. I gotta be smart.
I can't take 4 shots at this piece of steel. I gotta hit it in 1 shot.
That's why I have a dodge, so that I don't have to take 4 shots at it.
If I take one step too far, I shouldn't have even reloaded because the stage is completely destroyed after that. That was the fun of that's the fun of production. And
all the low cap divisions, I forget who it is, but all the low cap divisions, they had the advantage of being very cerebral. It becomes a thinking man's game. And you have to plan it in a much greater fashion than you ever will with high cap.
When you think production's hard, then you see somebody shooting 8-round single stack, and you're like, "Oh my God, they're gonna do what?"
Yeah.
Like,
my favorite is just
basically the standing reload special.
Well, that's
and they take targets from weird positions, and it's like, oh, I see. They're trying to only have 1 standing reload instead of 3. Okay, I get it.
He can't do that. And then you see them fire that 9th round and it misses. He goes, well, there goes their spare for the whole stage. Ain't that great? Good thing he can load his magazine, charge the gun, drop that 7 rounds on the ground, grab a fresh 8-1, stick it back in. Now he's back at 9. So he only had to reload twice to get 9 rounds.
The Glenn Shelby special.
Yes. I still think production's probably the best division out there, but I can't deny that there's nobody there anymore.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's hard.
It's a lot of fun to shoot those things, but it is a pistol competition, so having people to compete against might be the reason why to show up. But anyways, Robert, you got your cowboy special in your hand?
Yeah, this is my Alec Baldwin special. No, it's funny because we were
don't not pull the trigger or it will fire.
I didn't pull. Everyone who shot anything. I'm sure when I first moved up here to Utah, there's a story about a guy with a concealed carry permit that blew out the toilet in a Carl's Jr. because he shot it with a 40 caliber gold dot or something, and it's just like, I didn't pull the trigger. Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey,
even that asshole, the USPSA asshole a couple months ago, I didn't pull the trigger. I
thought with my gun up range with my finger safely outside the trigger guard because I'm safe, and the parts I put in the gun made it so if I shake the pistol really hard, it goes off.
Yeah, so I finally got around to reading that. I read about the interview that he did with those ABC, NBC, whatever, and he's like, I never pulled the trigger, and so I'm sitting like, how the hell do you do that? And I'm like, okay, well, it's a Western, so he probably had his finger on the trigger, pulls the hammer back. He's like, as soon as I let my finger off the hammer, the gun fired. Yeah, that's why. And it makes perfect sense. It's because he's walking around like a lot of dorks do with their finger on the trigger.
By definition, you have pulled the trigger.
You have pulled it, of course. But yeah, and so I was just trying to
you may not have cycled the hammer, but when you cycle the hammer and you have already pulled the trigger, then the gun goes bang.
Yeah.
I didn't pull the trigger. I was in the process of currently pulling the trigger when the gun.
My assistant pulled the trigger and taped it to the rear, and then handed it to me.
Well, and the other part too is
and as an actor, I'm not responsible for that because I'm just an actor. And it's like, dude, come on. I mean, you could. I mean, accept
you're the one
some
behind the gun.
Responsibility for this.
Yeah.
That was fortunate.
So the funny thing is too is the only thing I could see where you would have that, and I mean it's still dumb. You would have to be incredibly dumb to still do it. But if you had thick leather gloves on or something like that, in those small trigger guards, you could imagine that you had thick leather gloves on, and you may not understand that you're pulling the trigger when you pull the hammer back and it goes off. But even that is a very, very, very poor excuse.
This particular gun, it's a Cimarron or whatever, so it's just like a replica. It's supposed to be after Rooster Cogburn from True Grit, but it's got a light enough trigger that if you hit it in just the right spot as you're coming into it, it's not that hard. You could torch that round off. It's
just, I mean, they're single action. They are they can have very light triggers.
Very much so. And so I could understand that, but even then, I don't know. that whole situation bugs me because it's like I've said before. At the end of the day, there's a little kid without a mom.
Yeah.
And that just sucks.
Well,
and there's about 4 people that effed up royally for that to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was like if we talked about it or if it was like, or I've just heard it around, but it's the thing about like the 4 firearm rule, the rules of safety with that. You can like screw up a couple of those.
Yep.
And still be, quote unquote safe.
The others will keep you from having a tragedy. But when
Yeah.
you screw all 10 of them up,
Yeah.
Well,
and when it takes a whole crew to screw everything up, God.
You're just asking for something bad to happen, which it did.
Well, there's technically only one of them that you can't screw up, and that's keep your finger off the trigger till your sights are aligned with the target and you are willing to shoot. Because like that's the one that actually tells the gun to go bang.
Or keep the
like-
gun unloaded until you're ready to shoot. That one would have saved him too.
Yep.
There's a bunch of rules that would have saved him. How about don't point the gun? How about know your target and what's beyond it?
Yeah.
Why would you point a gun at the director of photography or whatever? Cinematographer lady.
Oh, she
Why
was
would
the,
I don't
well,
know.
the guy
what she
that got
was.
shot after her was the cinematographer. She was the what? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's words for it. I don't
But
know
why
what it
would
is.
you dry fire a gun at a person?
Yeah.
My God.
Who knows?
I mean, I get the idea of like, because you see those classic movie like where you see down the barrel of the gun, and so you get that scene, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because this is the game that we play, and so we're like overly safe. But that just I can't. I have a hard time even when I know the gun's unloaded. I still have a hard time like pointing the barrel towards me.
Well, this is when you go around a set and every gun is a prop and everything's fake. So when you have an argument with somebody or you're joking around with somebody, you just go grab it and go
You scratch your gun with the scratch your head with the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, well, I'm not gonna get you a tuna sandwich. I'm gonna blow your bam. And then that's what you get. It's complete tragedy.
Yeah.
The biggest laugher was when he said Alex said, I think police officers should be required on all movie sets. I'm like,
They
police
shoot
officers
back?
have some of the worst gun handling I've ever seen. But I'm not sure that would make anything safer.
I'm not sure like it would make anything safer. The other part is too is like, what do you want them to do? Like start shooting you like an active shooter after you shoot the first person? Is that what you want? You want return
You want
fire?
to be arrested right there? Arrested immediately?
What are they supposed
I mean,
to
he
do?
should be arrested and charged. Some people, nobody's been arrested or charged in this shooting, have they?
Not yet.
There have been a couple
not yet.
lawsuits filed, civil
Yeah.
suits.
But
yeah, actually I read today on KSL said the New Mexico district attorney or whatever said that, criminal charges are pending. Whatever that means.
yeah. The one thing is like, what do you want us to do? Like tie your arms down to your belt line? That would have prevented it. Is that what you want to do? Is like freaking ridiculous.
Well, it just bugs me because, I mean, just that whole interview, he's basically blaming every single other person in the entire world instead of being like, yeah, I'm the guy with my finger on the trigger.
Yep.
And I mean, that's fine. That's what people do. Nobody ever pulls the trigger when they inadvertently shoot the toilet.
You know,
But it still happens.
someone should take a single action army, put a primed case under the hammer, and put it in a paint shaker. Like cock the hammer, put it in a paint shaker, and then just be like, response to Alec Baldwin. Still not going off, Alec. Like if the hammer was down on those things were known to go off with the hammer down, but that was like, could go off, super light primer cups,
True.
riding a horse, like a lot of horses got shot in the leg from.
Well, that's why
from that.
that's why they would. I mean, even if it was a 6-shooter, they'd only load 5, and they'd have an empty cylinder over the hammer.
Yeah.
And then you'd cock into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Till Ruger figured out the transfer bar, or did Smith & Wesson do their little...
Ruger figured out the
something
transfer
first.
bar.
That's a good question. I always wondered that. I haven't a really old Smith & Wesson that was still had the proper, like the hammer. But that transfer bar, I gotta be honest, that's a really ingenious solution.
Yep.
And then
I
the
mean, it's
Smith &
simple.
Wesson... So some of the Smith & Wesson revolvers have that, but they have that little blocker bar that comes... Anyway, I'm not a revolver guy. I should shut up.
No, I mean you do have the biggest
some of
one.
my more
so that's
modern
like,
Smith & Wessons have that bar that comes
Yeah.
up
The bar that comes up to, I think, essentially stop the hammer from impacting
going
it.
forward.
Your finger's not on the trigger.
Yeah, and so it's like, Like because you can like with the Ruger, I've done it a bunch of times where if you hold that hammer back, and then you drop the hammer forward, you can actually see the transfer bar basically dropping out of the way just for a split second, and you suddenly have a little tiny bit more play where that hammer can eventually actually whack the firing pin or whatever.
Yep.
But
It's
cool.
it's essentially the idea of a firing pin block / a half cock notch on a semi-auto.
Yeah.
Anything to stop these things from going full force, going down and discharging. If you want to go full force and discharging, guess what? You can go to gallonbolts.com. They're caught up on all their back orders. They let you know on Instagram. Check them out and use promo code PewPro10 to save 10% off your first order. Gallonbolts.com, PewPro10, save 10% off. If you got to hold bullets on your belt or just your pants, or sometimes just wearing a belt, nothing else. They even work in the shower. Check them out, DominateDefense.com. Get a Mach 1 speed belt. It's the best competition belt on the industries. Or get a concealment belt or a duty belt or whatever. I've been wearing them all week. I love them. Check them out, DominateDefense.com. Use promo code PARA10. Save 10% off your order. And PrecisionHolsters.com. So the next thing, Precision Holsters, Fast Holster, PARA10 saves you 10%. They make a 92 Elite, whatever. I got to buy one. So I got to get some plus 3 round. I think 3 rounders for this thing. I think that's the best you can fit. Under there, you might get the Terrans. I'm not sure. Stack this thing up with some rounds and then a precision holster with my loophole delta point. That'll go out at any minute
If you want
through batteries.
If you want mag extensions, get the Hennings.
I'll get whatever fits 23 rounds in the gun and fits the base pad. I'll get
Henny.
any of those. I'll get the Hennies.
Henny is the only base pad you should ever look at in the entire world. It's the best base pad around.
I just can't believe that I'm going to be dumb enough now to have to sit there and hold the optic and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Too far. 1, 2.
It's 3. Not that bad, Tom.
It's
really not that bad.
If you do the Mark Walkie
plus
and
minus plus minus plus. This one has both of them. It has an auto.
You do this like literally one time at the match, and you do it based on the sun setting. But the thing that was always hard was trying to like actually hold the gun up and do it. And I finally watched Mark Walkie. He actually he holds the gun up like here, and he can look through it, and he's just like
he puts his eye right up to it.
Yeah,
and it worked. Yeah, it worked.
You put your thumb on the hammer. You put your thumb on the hammer. That's called the Baldwin. That's what you do.
Do the Baldwin.
Do the Baldwin. I know. I would like an up and down button, and I would not. I would like an optic that doesn't go through batteries like chiclets.
Wait a minute.
I've yet to change the battery in this.
You're complaining about batteries?
It's 190 hours. This one's 4 years. I'm spoiled.
No, these are like 500 hours, aren't they?
A lot more than that.
The Trichicon?
The Trichicon's like 50,000.
No, not the
some crazy number.
Loophole
but the loophole,
like 500 hours or something.
It could be 100 hours, and I still wouldn't care. I mean, a battery, a CR2032 it costs nothing. I mean, for crap's sake, it costs more to buy a bullet than a battery.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. But this one's cheap like
good
I am.
RMR.
Good little RMR. Good baby.
There's some heavy petting going on here.
Ooh. Hold on, let me smell it. Another 4 years left.
Okay, that's a little great. A little gross.
Love it. Anyways, check out all those people. They're all great people. We all love them. You guys are mostly okay, so we'll answer your questions. Telegram.com, do all that jazz. Robert, go.
From Alex Mansfield. If we're talking spicy, what spices do you put in your chili?
I just like peppers. I like salt and pepper. I like plain Himalayan sea salt or whatever, Himalayan salt, the pink stuff, and pepper. And I like my chili to be tasted with the roasted peppers that you put inside of it. And then maybe a little Tabasco afterwards, but that's how I like to roll. Tabasco sauce is quite possibly the greatest combination of salt, vinegar, and those little Tabasco peppers ever. It's so good. It's good for you. It's good for the eyes.
Well, I mean, it is good, but it's a little too much heat. Not quite enough flavor. I mean, I can drink it. I'm not saying it's too much heat. It just overpowers the flavor.
Yeah, it is. But you could use it as mouthwash with all that vinegar in there. I mean, you got something hurting you in that mouth, like cold sore. That Tabasco sauce clean that thing right out for you.
Yeah.
So I I spent a huge chunk of my younger years, like from 13 to about 17, working in an ammonia-filled room. So I can't smell very much, which means I conservatively can't taste very much. And
What
then
was the ammonia for? You guys.
back in the old days, blueprints
Oh yeah.
they used to run through this ammonia kind of solution. And then so between that and then when I got COVID, you lose your sense of smell, but then it came back. But like the sense of some tastes kind of like died out as well. So basically what I'm saying is you could put the spiciest things together and I'm probably not even going to taste it. So the spicier the better because I'll get a little bit of flavor out of it.
I have the aluminum powder from the inside of a box car smell, which is not good.
Ugh.
So it's like, that needs to bring me like some sort of like oil that's supposed to have like this great fragrance, and I got to bring it up and go. Yeah, that smells great. Like it just kill anybody else. Like you can't get me up with a freaking, what are those? The smelling salts.
See, Andrea, on the other hand, I mean, she can't take like anything spicy, and so we were at this snack cart stand or whatever, and there's like, a jalapeno, a cream cheese and jalapeno pretzel. Like, oh, that sounds kind of good. So we bought it, and Mercedes, Andrea and I, we all split it, and Andrea's like, oh, whew, that's really spicy, and Mercedes and I look at each other and I'm like, I can't taste anything but cheese. I don't know what she's talking about.
This is perfectly lame. Perfectly lame. My father-in-law used to not like onions because of onions, the spice of the onion. You know.
Onions have spice?
He used to put ketchup on tacos. It's disgusting. I married into the family. What can I do? Anyways, next question.
Let's see if I get from Alex. What are your thoughts on them wanting to put a minimum time as a member to be able to run or vote for positions in the organization?
I'm fine with that.
That'd be like the NRA, right? The NRA,
Yeah.
You have to be a member for a couple years.
Yeah. If there is an NRA left.
The NRA is dead.
Oh, the NRA is not just dead. The NRA is probably dead and going to prison. So
Let's
we'll
hope.
see.
Oh man, let's hope. No, I don't really mean that. Isn't that the hardest thing with the NRA though? Because you cannot, if you're being fair and you're treating everything correctly, you cannot deny the fact that the NRA did do good things. The Eddie Eagle, to me, has always been like the premier good that the NRA has done. I think the NRA has generally otherwise screwed over gun owners left, right, and center. But I love the Eddie Eagle program because it taught kids how to be safe around firearms, which I think is super valuable.
The public-facing portion of the NRA was always great. That was good because all the programs that they had were fantastic. It was the backside of it where they were basically taking members' money, not doing anything, taking credit for other organizations' victories, and then just running a what was it, a nonprofit pretty much, and then just going through everyone's money, and then just hiding it for years. So imagine if all that money that was put into the NRA actually went to the ILA and was actually doing some good things, but apparently they were handcuffed by people's private business jets and suits. And yeah, Wayne LaPierre, if he had gotten kicked out of it 15 years ago, would have been a much better organization. But
it would have had a lot more power for sure.
Yep.
I don't know. As far as being able to, as like putting a minimum time limit on a member, I think a lot of this came about because there was one of the guys who's running for USPSA president who made some claim that somebody in upstate New York bought an election. They basically bought a bunch of associate members, and they bought one of the elections, whether it's for Hopkins or whoever. I don't know which. It was just this weird kind of thing going on. So people started talking about that. I don't know the entire backstory to it. I don't know. To be really honest with you, I'm actually in favor of repealing a lot of the amendments that allow people to vote, like from a constitutional standpoint. So I'm probably not the best person to ask on that one.
The one thing about it is like, should members have to be a member for a year to vote? I think that's legitimate. Because the one thing with the associate membership, if you have someone who wants to run for position and has $10,000 in their pocket, they can get a good base level going right off the bat.
Well, that's the funny thing, though. I mean, like, people are like, well, we're going to go and buy an election. Okay, that's fine. But what do you get? Well, you get a board member. Well, the board member is one of 9, and it's not a paid position. So what are we doing?
Well,
I don't.
the one thing is you could imagine that some nefarious people might try to do it, and two, the people who are authoritarian enough that they want to buy somebody else's vote to be put in office to have a position, like they think so highly of the position. That's not the kind of people you want there in the first place. I was
But
listening to
that's but
the
that's the funny thing though, Tommy, is it's like the people, all these people like the Stagerites, they're basically doing the same thing as what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did in the 2020 election, where they're saying, all these things that Trump did are bad, and then 2021 rolls around and they're quietly doing all those same things because they got into office and they're like, yeah, whether you like the guy or not, there were some policies that were actually
we
legit and we should keep them.
well that's politics 101 though. Like
Sure,
that's not a
sure.
shocker for anybody. It's like you're continuing the same program as the guy you replaces. It's like, well, we kind of don't have another hand to play. It's like,
Well, but that's what
that was
Stager
it.
is trying. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what Stager is trying to like make claims about. Oh, if you put all of my appointed people in there, they're going to do all the things that I want to, and we'll make USPSA better. Well, how
Yeah.
exactly?
Well, here's the one thing. I was listening to a
I
Jocko
don't know.
Willing podcast called the Psychology of Military Incompetence, and it was written by this PhD psychologist back in the 50s after World War II. No, in the 70s, but he was a British World War II veteran. And anyways, he was talking about the same people who are authoritarians. The military attracts those kind of people because he's like, I put this rank on and then I get to tell people what to do. And those are the wrong people you want to have in leadership positions.
Sure.
And so you get people who's like, if I have this much money and I buy this many votes, I get this position, and then people have to recognize me for this position I essentially paid for. So I think on both positions you were just like, after you've been a member for a year, feel free to vote. And I think that just at least hampers the buying the associate memberships for your entire family reunion.
But we can't make it too extreme because there's a lot of people that don't shoot for more than a year.
That's true.
Your average person that shoots is involved for like 8 months or something.
Yeah,
That's true as well.
I think that's the only way I think that's the lowest denomination of time that we actually track the membership, though.
But that's kind of the funny thing, though. Going off what you're saying, Steve, is if they're only in it for a certain period of time and they're going to be gone, which, to be fair, most people are that way, should they be really voting in the first? And I don't know. But should people who are generally uninformed be allowed to vote? It's a hard question. Because do you want voters or do you want an informed voters?
At that point,
I would say informed voters.
If you want informed voters, then basically what you would have to do is have representatives of areas make the votes, and then you would try to vote in or vote out those representatives who are making those decisions. Yeah. That's the board. It's like, do you want to have a decision on things? You have a board. And so it's once you pay for your second annual membership, congratulations, you're on the roster. We'll send you a ballot. I think that's the best way to kind of hamper both of those things. So
yeah, I'm willing to be wrong. I don't know. I'm willing to be wrong. From Joe Henry, how in depth of a competitor are you? Do you create spreadsheets, study? I don't know what this word is. Kinesthetics. Wing it. Something like that. Save match videos for an extended period of time just to study, practice, live fire. What do you do?
So I've dry fired a little bit, but I'm in my busiest time of year. What I've been since I got into this Karyoptics thing is just trying to master and understand all the hardware that goes along with this thing. Because for production guns for years, production guns is like, I've had all these types of production guns. It's like I like studying how people make certain service weapons. And I can take this thing apart and polish different parts and make it all fancy and nice. And now I'm having to understand why you would use a certain thread pitch for a certain material, like why you would use a fine machine thread pitch for an aluminum plate and not a coarse steel thread pitch, and then have your plate come off and break.
Do you want to know what I think is probably the real answer to that? Is the people who were designing all that, they were close to a Lowe's, and they went and found some screws that worked, and that's what they did.
Yes.
I'm convinced that's probably what it is. And then nobody had enough like forethought to be like, hey, so what is the rest of the industry doing? Screw that. We don't care.
They say words like it's strong. Why is it strong? Steel on steel contact.
Apes together strong.
Yeah, it's like okay. So you can just use anything. So like and they're like making like these coarse threads that go on there and can like chew up the insides of things. This is like no, this is, and then you find like the other ones are just like, oh, no one uses this. Why does no one use this? Because it costs a lot of money to put 48 threads on this tiny little thing and then put it in there. And then the head size, and then the reason you have torques and you have Allens. I'm just trying to understand that. And once I understand that and get some extended base pads in some of these magazines, I will be more than likely go out there and I'll dry fire practice for sure. I'll zero the gun. I'll do that stuff. But until we get to all the other stuff and little lights where I can slap them and do all my footwork and all that jazz and little laser beams that come out of my eyes so I can check my depths, it's like, okay, I'm just trying to have fun, kids. I'm just trying to have fun and understand how these Legos go together.
Yeah, I'm at the fun stage too. My serious practice days are probably over, although every now and then I'm like, ooh, I'd like to shoot well at this such and such a match, and so I'll do a little bit of live fire and a moderate amount of sessions of dry fire before a match. And I don't know if it really matters. It probably helps a little bit, but it's like the days are serious. Like I'm going to practice every Saturday. I'm going to dry fire 5 out of 7 days a week. I'm going to work on this specific skill today and dry fire, and then that skill the next day. Oh man, those are good days, but I think they're gone.
If I'm really excited about a match, I'll stretch the arthritis in my back. Like, ooh, we want to be out our game. We better do some yoga this morning. Not too much. We wouldn't want to overdo it because we have a bad back. Anyway,
Tom and I are no longer death stalkers, except we like to death stalk each other.
I don't know. I think this last year, and it seems to be going forward, I'm probably in Steve's camp. I think the days of really pushing that harder probably gone. But no, I actually like going out and practicing and having fun that way. And sometimes I actually enjoy it more than actually shooting the match.
Oh,
which is sort of weird, but I really do enjoy it. A good live practice
session can be way more satisfying than a match.
I think so.
Sometimes.
I think the one thing is, like, you can be pretty competitive if you do two things: dry fire and exercise. If you do both of those things, you actually become pretty damn competitive. Like, keep your weight low. Yeah, like keep your weight low, get yourself strong, get yourself so that you can move into position pretty quick. I mean, there's a lot of simple exercises that you could do to make yourself pretty explosive, and then just dry fire, and you can be pretty well set off to do a bunch of stuff. But because honestly,
however, you do have to get, there is a foundation of fundamentals that you have to develop that there's no way around. If you don't understand a good trigger break from a bad trigger break and how to and can tell when you're jerking the trigger, pushing the gun off target. Yeah. You can't tell that. You can't see your sights calm down, and kind of what Robert's told us a million times, what an acceptable amount of wobble is versus an unacceptable amount. There's about 5 or 10 things you must know before you just put your feet up and coast. And if you don't know those things, your coasting is not going to be very pretty.
I would. That is 100% true. I think we've gone so far past those kind of early fundamental days that we're just like, look, if I exercise and I do like 87 minutes of dry fire in like 2 weeks, like I can show up and I can shoot exactly where I think I'm going to end up. I can maintain. It's like what's the caloric intake I can do to just maintain my weight? And you're like, I can do that. That's easy. But if you don't have those early beginning skills, yeah, it becomes a nightmare. Great point, Steve.
I will say, if you want to progress, I think it's it's the truism of most things in life. Set a goal, find a way to track that goal. That's probably where those spreadsheets. If you don't find some way to track it, some people, they use how they place against another person who's a regular shooter in their match, and so that's how they're tracking their performance. If you don't find some way to track it, you'll never really be able to tell if you're getting better or not.
Yep.
Let's see, from Alex Mansfield, how long will it be till Tommy buys another boomer pistol? Anyone want to take bets?
No, because I spent all my money on dots. Why did I spend all my money on dots? Because I can't find the right screws. It's a $340 solution to an 8-cent problem. Done.
I have a
Done.
I have a related question, sort of related. I want to know what to do with this FN 509. I don't really plan on shooting it. I
Sell
don't
it.
really want to get involved with the platform. Should
Are
I
all the
sell it?
Are all the Glocks making fun of it in the
Well-
safe, Steve? Is that the
I
problem?
have this.
Steve, let me give you my perspective because I've actually been here before. I've gotten guns. I've gotten guns from like family, or whatever. And there's a part of my brain that sits there and it's like, this was given to me by a family member, but it doesn't complete me. It's not ever going to get shot. And what happens is I mentally sell that gun about 6 months before I actually list it on KSL or Utah Gun Exchange. And if that's you, then that's maybe something to consider, because that's what I've done that so many times. I'm like, I don't need this gun. It's not me. It doesn't complete me. I don't enjoy shooting it. It's a fine gun. I got it because I won it or it was given to me,
Yeah.
but I'm just never going to use it. And if that's
Exactly.
the case, just give it to somebody. Don't hang on to it because you want it, because you think you need to. Let that gun go to somebody else and provide them joy while you go and you move on to something else.
Okay. I like that.
Counterpoint. Steve, with the 509 in your gun room, can you still walk in your gun room?
Yeah.
Is it taking up a lot of space? No.
Just in my mind. Just in my mind, it takes up space. It's
Okay.
clutter in my mind.
Okay, so it's clutter in your mind. And you're gonna make the mortgage this month. You're gonna be okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's not a problem, Steve.
Okay.
Leave it in the damn safe. If you go out shooting one time and one of your kids doesn't like Glocks, you could be like,
You can
Well, wait a
slap them
second.
upside the head
Wait.
and say, "You're not my child."
"You're not my child.
How did you get involved with this trip?
Spit into this vial. We're testing this right now." But like you could have it and you could like give it to somebody else that goes out there and shooting, and if they find a lot of joy in it, then you could give it away. I would much rather give it away to a family member than sell it on the street for a Glock, because that's what would happen.
That's a good point. That's a great idea.
Give it to somebody else. Keep it in the family. Give it to
Yep.
somebody else, and then I think that's the way to go. Then it doesn't occupy mind, but you don't need.
Gotcha.
It's not a rush.
Sweet.
Will Steve give up on carry optics and live in the wastelands of production forever? Yes.
Done and done.
He didn't
I mean, I seriously think maybe not maybe not production, but I do think about shooting like wintertime, just shoot limited minor. Come summertime, shoot production. I don't know.
I don't know, Steve.
What did you sign up for berries?
If that's your brain and that's where you're at, then honest to goodness, put that dot back on the gun and over the winter shoot the dot, and then go shoot production, and you will have seen your production results increased like dramatically. I just promise you on that. Every time I've gone back from optics into irons, it's blown my mind how much easier it is to actually shoot those iron sights.
Koski, what did you sign up for? We
We
signed up for we signed up for berries.
That's what she said.
What did you sign up under?
Production.
That's what happens. That's what happens. I just
When I show up to an 8-round array of steel, I don't want to have 27 rounds to blast. I want to have to shoot.
Well, then
I wanna have to
just
hit 'em.
Shoot. Take the red dot. Determine that you're going to go 1 for 1 on the steel.
I
and
am
do it.
going through hell.
But otherwise,
on this-
go have fun.
on this
at
carry optics
this
thing.
point in our lives, honestly, it doesn't matter. If you show up to a match and you like revolver, then by gosh, go have the best time with the revolver gun. If you
Shut
like
up,
production-
Robert. He signed up with
trying-
me. I'm going down. I'm sharing a hotel room. I want to shoot carry optics. What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm going to win, and then we're going to be eating Jack in the Box tacos? He goes, well, I'll shoot production. I'm not having this. Put the
You
dot
only
on
have
your
to give
gun.
me 5%. I might still hang with you.
Whatever.
Berries.
I'm like $1,300 into this carry optics thing. I've shot one USPSA match and one IDPA match and one outlaw match in my entire life. And
Come talk to me when you have 3 SROs on 3 Shadow 2 slides.
Robert, my taste wouldn't even let me get in there. We were at Gunny's and my wife and my daughter were looking at like the $3,000 Walther, the Q5 with the fancy like color paint. They had like the orange Shadow 2s underneath there, and they're like, "Wow, these are expensive." Like, those are Robert's guns. Guess what
My
kind of
friends
dot
shoot these
Robert has
guns.
on
Aren't
his?
you glad I don't shoot these
Yeah.
guns?
It's like I'm getting a $300, $400 dot. Robert wants me to get a $650 dot that's unobtainium. That's what he wants. I'm reasonable. I'm the sane one.
When I first started shooting years ago, Mark Brown accidentally he left his gun on the safe table, and so he came and picked it up a day later, and I was showing it to Andrea, and
He
I'm
left it like after the match. He drove home with his gun on the safe table.
yeah. Well, let me set the stage, and it'll totally understand. Do you remember back at the farm? I think this was like 2014 or 15, something like that. That guy accidentally shot himself, and we closed the match down, stuff like that. He was kind of just really distraught over it, so he quickly unloaded his gun, and then everybody was doing all that, and then he just left because his mind wasn't in the space. And so that kind of makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
But I remember showing that gun to Andrew, and I'm like, yeah, this is probably like a $3,000, $4,000 gun. I promise you, I'll never get into that. That's just too much. And I'm like, hey, Andrea, these first 3 guns on here, they cost more than $5,000.
3 years later, well, how the hell am I supposed to compete without a backup with brass grips and another SRO? No, they don't make it pre-cut. You got to send it off to get cut. Gosh, well, I can't send it to these guys. They're gypsies. They'll put it on crooked. I got to pay them $300.
What are your thoughts about the school shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan? Do you feel it's appropriate that the parents get charged as well? I don't know enough about this story, to be really honest.
The kid, from my understanding, was planning on shooting people in the school for a few weeks prior to it. Then his father bought a 6-hour SP-2022, and the kid managed to get a hold of it, and I think the 2 mags that came with the gun, put it in his backpack, went to school, and the kid was already having disciplinary problems. I think they had the parents in that morning, and he went to the bathroom with his backpack, pulled out the SIG, and then shot 4 people. He's got like a terrorism count against him, 4 first-degree murder charges. Like, and they moved him from the juvenile facility into the adult jail. He's going away.
How old is this kid? Didn't the parents run
15.
from the law?
He's 15.
They put like a one thing.
Turn themselves in. They took off.
I did not see if they took off or what, but they are in custody now. It is. Well, that's the one thing about those charges. So it's like, how serious of those charges could you actually get to? Because So,
here's the question that I would have, and I don't know the story, so if I say something like inappropriate, don't take it badly. But at what point does the 15? Jeez, he's only 15. Yeah. At what point does a 15-year-old have to assume responsibility for his actions, and we no longer blame the parents?
Well, you can do both. There can be guilt and liability on both parts. If the parents are leaving access for a distraught 15-year-old to load up a semi-auto pistol and take it to school, that's not a good idea. You got to keep your guns under control.
Yeah, you do.
But in that question, and the parents, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. 15 freaking years old.
He's like
still a kid. My daughter is 16, and she's like, frick on the head. Oh my god.
Like, what level of control do you have to have of the firearm before you are no longer liable for it? If I have the handgun on my waist knife and I fall asleep and a kid takes that and goes shoot somebody, am I liable for it? If I have a handgun safe and it's in the safe and the kid knows the combination or finds a key and gets into it, am I liable for it? If I have a safe and the kid is able to get into the safe and get a hold of the gun and go in there and shoot, am I liable for it? I mean, that's the one thing that's hard to sit there and determine of, like, what are you actually liable for? And what if, like, the gun's out but all the magazines are locked up, and then someone goes out and buys another magazine and buys some ammo and then takes your gun and goes shoots people with it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know what their actions were if they gave him clear and easy access to this gun, but I don't like people to be able to come into my house and find and load a gun, even if I'm not there and they have 6 hours to look for a gun. I don't like them to be able to find and load a gun.
And if they find it, I don't want them to have to go through the burden of loading it. That's how I am. If you find one, it should already be loaded.
That's Robert's method. Well, you found it. Loaded.
If you found the nightstand gun and there's no magazine on it, shame on me. But But no, it would their level of culpability. That's would be one thing that you'd have to figure out. But the one thing is too is like when you have situations like this that are tragic, people will, especially elected officials, will go to the nth degree to
Oh, we saw that with Rittenhouse.
hold somebody accountable for it. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing you got to be careful for. And it's like the prosecutor's job is to seek justice, and not to just go out there and try to win cases. So it's a very, we got to get going anyway. Steve's got to leave here in a second. Last question. And we're
Do this
saying
really
goodbye.
last question because this one Steve can answer. What are your thoughts on 10mm handguns for backcountry versus other calibers, and versatility and utility of those handguns? Any semi-automatic versus other options for these handguns?
Oh boy.
Because you always just take your 17, right?
Yeah, I put in the super hot 147 grain flat point bullets or something.
I thought you took off your shirt and then wore the 500 Smith and Wesson
wore the
Magnum
500
just in the front side saddle. The
but
scabbard.
I'm also like in Utah. I'm not in Alaska. I'm not up in Canada where I might actually. What's the worst I'm going to encounter around here? A cat,
mountain lion. Yeah.
A mountain lion is probably the worst, or maybe a black bear
You might get a moose.
will probably just run away.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of
up in Red Ledges, like one of the places we do a lot of work in. There was actually a pair of mountain lions that were stalking a couple dogs, like domestic dogs around there, and the people who run Red Ledges, one of them's a hunter guy, and so he and another guy actually had to go out and like shoot him to stop the problem. It was like, ooh, that's a little bit unnerving.
yeah.
When they can literally jump in the backyard, grab your dog, and then jump back over the fence with them.
Goodbye, Fluffy.
So I don't really know too much about backcountry carry or what the Alaskans are thinking when they're up fishing on a float boat.
Yeah.
I would say 10mm is great. I mean, when people talk about it's basically 41 Magnum ballistics, and Smith and Wesson just came out with their M&P in 10mm. It's like a $450 gun, 15 shots of 10mm, and it's optics ready. Like, good luck holding on to screws with that freaking bastard. That thing's gonna. Your optics.
That'll test the durability of your optic there. Kaslam! Kaslam!
I've got my Glock 41, which is a 45, and I'm curious if you can run a conversion barrel in that, so you take it from 45 down to a 10mm, because it's the same basic platform.
A full power 45 round is no joke either.
Yeah,
it's right up there with the 10mm as far as
if you have
power factor downrange, punching holes in.
If you have a 185 grain bullet versus a 180 grain bullet in a 40 caliber, they're pretty similar. Some of those 10mm loads, there are 180 grains, and they're like 1,300 feet per second. I mean, they are. Wow. That's serious. That's some serious shooting.
The old goal was what, 200 at 1,200?
Yeah.
200 grain bullet at 1,200, which you could get some like double tap ammo that will do that, but yeah, that's tough to hold on to. That's a round there.
Yeah,
jeez, so 240 power factor.
A Mossberg Shockwave with slugs, that might get you through it. Your wrist might not survive it, but you might. So check that out. Anyways, for Robert Wyatt, Steve Koski, and Kenny Terry, who's beating up on 12-year-olds at a 22 match, still saying he's king or something. Like Dimitri, peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Good night, everybody.
We love you, Kenny.
He's like Kramer in the karate class.